Good evening and welcome to your most authoritative evening political show. We're live on Facebook at Pan African Television. We're also live on YouTube at Pan African Television, as well as streaming on about 48 African countries. You can join in the conversation by sending in your views, comments and contributions on our WhatsApp text line. We'll make a time and read that for you. You can as well, leave your suggestions, questions and whatnot on our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram and on Twitter at Pan African Television. I'll make a time and read all those, comments, suggestions and whatnot you'll be pouring out for you. My name is Justice Appiah. Tonight on Hot News, we are still talking about the 2022 budget, presented by the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, its approval and rejection. But today we'll focus on a forum held yesterday by the National Democratic Congress. They have described the budget as a woody budget. A woody budget. Government has given the budget a name, and what they are saying is that the budget is a Ajenkwa budget. The National Democratic Congress is trying to say that is the opposite of a Ajenkwa budget. A woody budget is the opposite. So what they are basically trying to say is that the government has presented what is likely to kill Ghanaians rather than to save Ghanaians. They have been speaking yesterday. The General Secretary of the party, Honorable Johnson Ketia, has talked about the fact that the National Democratic Congress government has not been against, or they are not against, taxation, except that if you are taxing Ghanaians, it must be done in the right perspective, done in the right frame. Of course, you need not to tax the poor who are already down there struggling. Let's go and listen to him. We'll be right back and play some more other excerpts from their forum, and then I'll introduce my guests for the discussion. But let's listen to the General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress.
There's been a misconception that NDC is against taxation, and the propaganda has gone on to even indicate that we are nation wreckers. If we are not supporting taxation, how else do we intend to develop this nation? I want to let everybody know that NDC is not against taxation. Indeed, our philosophy is based on taxation. We believe in redistributive justice, and taxation is a means of achieving redistribution of wealth in the country. Our philosophy is hinged on the belief that once we have come together to live in one society, and we have different means, some will get rich, others will get richer, others will remain poor, whatever happens. But if we want to live in a group to ensure that everybody can have the basic needs in life, we believe that there must be taxation. And our principle of taxation is each according to his means. So those who have bigger means will pay more than those who don't have. So, whilst we are supportive of taxation, we are very conscious about what type of taxation and how that taxation is implemented. Because if you put in taxation measure that works to put the greatest burden on the people who are already sinking, then you are not helping to build a welfare society. So our policy is that let us tax, but those who have the bigger means must bear the bigger portion of the taxation. And there are even people who cannot be taxed. They must be beneficiaries of the proceeds of taxation. So when it comes to government expenditure, we also believe that to each according to his needs. So when you are taking the money from each according to his means, and then when you are distributing to each according to his needs. So that is our taxation policy. So I want to debunk the assertion that NDC is against taxation. In fact, when we come back to power, we will continue to use taxation, but we will use taxation in a manner that we will achieve the objectives that we have set unto ourselves.
That was the General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress. But the National Communications Officer, Sammy Jenfi, has also been speaking. Let's listen to him.
Know that as part of the COVID expenditure, they claim that in this year alone, they spent a whopping $100 million, equivalent to 600 million Ghana cedis, which is equivalent to 6 trillion old Ghana cedis, on the purchase of just 3 items: hand sanitizers for SHS school children, Veronica Bacchus 3 per school, and 2 reusable nose masks for every SHS child. That alone cost a whopping 6 trillion old Ghana citizens. So it will be very interesting to know what the outcome of that audit will be.
That was the National Communications Officer of the Opposition National Democratic Congress, Member of Parliament for Bogatanga Central, in person of Honorable Isaac Adongo, was there and has also spoken. Let's listen to him.
Indicators reflect the fact that by 2019, Ghana was headed in a very wrong direction, and that it was becoming almost impossible to deal with the propaganda, because the truth would expose you. We have had several or another. There was somebody that was behind His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo that had the magic wand, and that this person knew economics and the economy so well, because when he was taught economics at what level, the only teacher and lecturer who taught him died and didn't get the opportunity to teach anybody again economics. And so he was the repository of economics. And those of you who recall my comments during the first budget of the MPP in 2017, I had told them that you cannot use the basic principle of ceteris paribus to run the Ghanaian economy, because the Ghanaian economy is an economy that has very complex and technical, institutional and structural rigidities that must be addressed in order to unleash the potential that the certain principles that we're espousing can work. And I warn them that they can be forgiven for delivering propaganda lectures. In fact, they can be forgiven by allowing propaganda lectures to become their manifesto promise to the people of Ghana. But once they ventured into implementing propaganda lectures as policies that they needed to implement, implementation was going to expose them to by anybody. But we have realized that implementing policy is a lot more difficult because they deal with the realities of life. You cannot be experimenting with the lives of the people. We have come to this point also because we have had almost 4 or 5 years where we did not believe that the budget is the budget of the people. His Excellency the President has been appointed, or has been elected as the President, to be given the power to seek our mandate to collect monies from us, and for us to determine and approve where he will spend those monies. And so the budget that he presents to us is our budget. And that is why there are elaborate processes of consultations and stakeholder engagements in order to arrive at a budget that is acceptable to all, because it leads to a common objective of growing Ghana and growing our people. Under these people, the budget is for the President. The President sits around with a group of people, and then they decide that what Ghanaians are looking for is A, B, or C. And when they come and you challenge the budget, they call you names because you are reckless, you are unpatriotic, and that all you want to do is to take power. But that is not the tenets of developing a budget.
Well, that was the Member of Parliament for Bogatanga Central, Honorable Isaac Adongo. But I would want to read, some few things that came out of the forum held by the National Democratic Congress yesterday. It says the General Secretary of the Opposition National Democratic Congress, NDC, has reiterated the commitment of the party to resist the approval of the Electronic Transaction Levy, e-levy, being proposed by government. Now, to attain this pledge, Johnson Asidun Kitia, at an NDC forum on the 2022 budget on Wednesday, said the party's representatives in Parliament have been advised not to boycott discussions on the 2022 financial estimates. According to him, the approval of the budget doesn't mean the e-levy has also been approved, since various select committees have to further assess the fiscal policy. He explained that at these various commitment meetings, the representatives of NDC will thoroughly scrutinize details of the budget and vote against the e-levy. He continued by saying that, quote, tax measures must come by way of bills, so it is at the stage that after the Finance Minister or Attorney General will bring a bill that will provide for the collection of the e-levy. This will also be taken through the proper stages of lawmaking, irrespective of what happens at the committee level. We still have an opportunity to vote against the e-levy. Quote, so we are at a stage where maybe from tomorrow we will revisit the approval of non-approval of the budget. But whatever happens, we still stand by our position, and we have agreed with our MPs that a boycott is not an option, because if we boycott, what it means is that all these other stages will be railroad. So we will be present and undertake our key responsibility of holding the elephant accountable, unquote. The incumbent Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, whilst delivering the 2022 budget on Wednesday, November 17, proposed a 1.75% levy on all electronic transactions effective January 1, 2022. He described it as an innovative method to generate revenue after government scrapped road tolls. However, a section of Ghanaians, including the minority in Parliament and some economists, have kicked against this proposal, arguing that it will intensify the hardships of the average Ghanaian. For Mr. Nkitia, government should cut down on expenditure instead of increasing taxes. The outspoken politician noted that government can achieve this by eliminating some privileges enjoyed by the executive, since these frivolous perks are the reason for the high public expenditure. We're talking about a shortage of revenue against expenditure, and we want to bridge the gap. Nobody is talking about cutting down expenditure. You want to continue taxing people, including those who are dying, but you are not prepared to cut down on your privileges. He was categorical. It goes on and on and on and on, but that's the more reason why we are here. I've been joined in the studio by the deputy or a deputy national youth organizer of the Opposition National Democratic Congress, Adam Agbana. Adam, good evening. It's been a while on this platform.
Yes. Took a brief break.
Right.
I'm back.
Right. Also in the studio is Mr. George A.C., Director of Communications for NADMO. He doubles as a member of a New Patriotic Party communications team. Mr. A.C., good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Justice.
You have been here, on several occasions of late.
Yeah.
Yes. I've been doing the program with you, actually. Thank you so much for coming.
It does well. Right.
I'll start with you, Adam, on your forum. What's wrong? What at all is wrong with the 2022 budget presented by the Finance Minister? You have named the budget as a woody budget. The government is saying that this is a Jinkwan budget. This is meant to save the good people of Ghana.
Well, Justice, let me say good evening to you, to my brother George, and to all our cherished viewers across the world. And again, I'm happy to let you know that anytime I share flyers or the information that I'm coming on your program,
right,
I get response from people all over the world.
Very well.
Who tell me that they watch your program. So
right.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
And let me also use the opportunity to remind you and the people of Ghana that exactly a year ago today, we were mourning the brutal, the senseless killings of 8 Ghanaians whose only crime was to demand for transparency.
I see.
In the counting process after the elections. You recall the incidents that happened in Odododio, where even a 15-year-old girl who did not even vote, who was not even part of the process, she was just running errands for her parents, was shot dead because a stray bullet got to her. You remember incidents in Techiman South and other constituencies, resulting in the death of 8 people.
Right.
Let me also remind the people that it's been a year and President Akufo-Addo and his administration have failed to take any actions on these killings. Maybe it is because the Akufo-Addo government is the biggest beneficiary of those heinous crimes, the murder of 8 Ghanaians, and that is why they have not said anything concerning it. And so, for me, on a day like this, I am reminded that in 2020, Ghana had a leader who placed his quest for political power above lives of the Ghanaian people. These are people who have demonstrated by utterance and by their action that indeed they do not mind killing the people of Ghana if only it will entrench their hold of political power. And for me, as a young man in politics, that is very sad, and we must call Akufo-Addo and his administration out, because he is the head of the national security. That is why he is the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces. He receives daily security briefing. He is the only person in this country who is furnished with privileged security information on daily basis. But here we are, not even a comment from the Akufo-Addo government on the killings, to the extent that so pathetic that even when he appeared before Parliament to give account of his stewardship as mandated by the Constitution to give a speech on the State of the Nation address, he spoke about the elections, spoke about everything else that happened in this country. But Akufo-Addo refused to mention the death of these 8 people. And I must say that may the blood of these 8 people fight for justice. And just let me say that I'll come back to the budget, but this is about lives, and so it's so important to me. And let me say,
since that is not what is on the table,
yes,
we just have to be snappy with that.
So in conclusion, let me say that crime has no expiry date. On any day that the John Dramani Mahama led government and the NDC returns to power, justice must prevail. We will fight for justice for these 8 people. Right. Okay. Back to the budget. The Ewudie budget. This budget is nothing but a killer budget.
Why is the NDC describing the budget as a Ewudie budget?
It is an Ewudie budget because there is nothing in this budget that inspires hope. There is nothing in this budget that shows that the Akufo-Addo government is committed to elevating the hardship that the people of Ghana are going through. Okay. There is nothing in this budget that shows that they are concerned about providing jobs for young people. There is nothing in this budget that shows that they want to repent from their corrupt ways, because this budget only creates enablers for them to enhance their corruption, and I'll go into it. Justice. 2020, the world was struck by the pandemic called COVID-19. Lots of people lost their jobs. Businesses collapsed. And so all over the world, economies were ravaged by the pandemic. And so post 2020, as the world is seeking to recover from the pandemic, what every sensible and responsible government is doing is that they are investing in social system, providing social support to their citizens. But since 2021, the Akufo-Addo government's budget that they presented, the 2021 budget and this 2022 budget, only seeks to impose more hardship on the people. Now, when you go into the budget, what makes it a killer budget? You have a budget that seeks to reduce or reverse the benchmark values. What that means is that you have the people of Ghana going to pay more import duties at a time that freight forwarders and at a time that people who are engaged in the business of imports and export are complaining about the expensive, how much taxes that they are paying at the port. You are reversing the benchmark values, and this is going to increase the import duties by at least 50%. That is insensitivity, and their businesses will collapse, and they have self-notice.
I see.
You have a budget that is imposing tax on consumption at almost every level. The Ghanaian, the poor Ghanaian, is going to be taxed. I don't even want to focus too much on the e-levy because I think that point has been belabored, but I will come to it. Are you aware that in this budget, government is seeking to increase all government charges, all government fees at all institutions, be it schools, hospitals? Every government institution will have their fees increased by 15%. So when you are a student and you find yourself in a tertiary institution like the University of Ghana, like the UCC, University of Education, Winneba, government has imposed a 15% increment on your fees. That is exclusive of what the institution itself will impose. So for example, because I am very convenient with the University of Ghana system, this is what happens. At the University of Ghana, every year, school fees are increased by the prevailing rate of inflation plus 2%. So if the prevailing rate of inflation for the year, the average, is 10%, it means that school fees will be increased by 12% because they always make provision for an extra 2. So they add it and increase it by that. Now with this 15% increment in charges and fees of government across all institutions, what happens is that students will now have this 15% increment. So the 12% that will be added will be on the 15% increment because the 12% is from the institution. So all students who are listening to me, your fees are going to be increased by at least 15% because that is contained in this 2022 budget. The Akufo-Addo government says Ghana is broke and they want money. Secondly, you have a budget that seeks to impose charges 1.75% on the mode of payment, which is the e-levy. When we say e-levy, we have broken it down to Momo tax. So people don't know that even bank transfers and others are affected because it is electronic transaction.
Right. Now,
for a government that seeks to take pride in digitalization and digitization, how do you introduce a disincentive a few weeks after the Baumia comes to give a lecture, and then you are introducing these taxes on Momo? What it will mean is that if you are going to transfer, let's say 300 or 500 Ghana cedis, okay, to your sick grandmother in the village, when you withdraw the money from your account and it hits your Momo account and you are sending, you are going to pay the 1% which goes as service charge to the telcos themselves. In addition to that, you pay 1.75% on this. That is what they are proposing. And so when you look at the budget and all the schemes that they have introduced and everything else in the budget, there is nothing in this budget that tells you that they are ready to address the economic challenges that the people of Ghana are facing. It is a budget that seeks to impose hardship.
I know that there has been an initiative that government wants to start, and that has been captured in the budget, the You Start initiative. That is meant to create several jobs for the team youth in this country. So you're saying that there's nothing really good in the budget. I want to draw your attention on that.
You Start. Beautiful idea that you want to provide a support system for young people who want to start their own enterprises. This looks like what the NDC government started with the Yes Fund. But this is what is happening, Justice. When the NPP came into power in 2017, they changed the name of the Yes Fund that President Mahama introduced to NEIP. With the NEIP, when you look at what they have done over the 5 years, The only thing that is different is that they only change the name, just changing of nomenclature. The Akufo-Addo government are experts in changing names or putting names to initiatives that they did not even start. But we have this government. Every single budget they have read from 2017, they have mentioned initiatives that are similar to USTART, but nothing was done. Are you aware that in the last mid-year budget that was read, didn't Ken Ofori-Atta tell the people of Ghana that they were starting a program that will create 1 million jobs? It hasn't started. Then in 2022, you reintroduce a new term calling it USTART, and you tell us that it is supposed to be a slight deviation from what you wanted to do in the last year's budget. Nothing started under the last initiative.
I see.
Justice, these same people read budgets where they captured that they will do Agenda 111. Didn't Akufo-Addo tell us that from July 2022, he was going to start the construction of the 111 hospitals? Tell me a single place, a single district where we have structures to show that they are doing that.
Lands have been acquired.
You see,
we're told contractors have moved to sites.
When you are president,
work.
You are the number one gentleman of the land, and when you speak, your speech carries a lot of power.
Right.
But unfortunately, since 2017, the presidency has been reduced to empty talk, such that the president can address us in his national address, all these COVID addresses that he was having, and told us that by tomorrow we are starting the construction of hospitals in all districts that did not have this. And when the president says that, and over a year, not a single place have we seen a block being laid, and they tell us that lands have been secured and all of that after a year, it tells you that they are not honest people. The Akufo-Addo government have not been honest with the people of Ghana. And so this USTART, yes, it's a good idea, but ask yourself, how different is it from the years fund that the John Mahama administration introduced? And again, there is a serious deception and ridiculous claim being made by the NPP. Now they tell us that this e-levy, which targets to raise 7 billion, is what will be used to create 11 million jobs. My goodness.
Well, they talked about several things. They talked about the fact that, well, that will help in job creation. They've also said that, for infrastructure like roads and all of that, it's going to be invested in that area and all those things.
In 4 years, the Akufo-Addo government has borrowed 220 billion. No government in the history of this country has borrowed such an amount of money within the period that they did. And yet, they have nothing to show. 220 billion could not create the 11 million jobs that you are claiming. It is 7 billion. All of a sudden, everything that happens in this country, they mention roads, they mention this, it's all coming from this 7 billion. When you have borrowed 220 billion in 4 years, he has done nothing. That is just borrowing. Don't forget also that in terms of oil resources, oil revenue, no government in the history of this country has had as much accrued from oil revenue as the Akufo-Addo government. Don't forget, at the time the John Mahama administration took over, Ghana had only one oil field. But by the time we left power, we added 2 extras. So when the NDC was in power, we were producing on the average 90,000 barrels of oil in a day. 90,000 barrels. But because of the investment and the visionary leadership of the John Dramani Mahama government, we added 2 extra fields, which is the 10 fields and the Sankofa field. That gives us over 200,000 barrels a day.
And I will listen to your General Secretary. He has admitted that yes, even the next NDC government would probably, go into taxation and all of that. So if this government is doing same,
we have said that
if you don't have any issues with taxation,
to the NDC very well, we don't have a problem with taxation. Our problem is that the fact that every government in the world tax citizens does not mean that you should just be introducing taxes that are meant to impose hardship on everybody. If not, tomorrow they will tell us that if you want to wear a beautiful dress, you should pay tax on it, because this government has such a history. These are people that said even if you want to drive a luxurious car, they were imposing different taxes on it. Meanwhile, when you are importing such a car and you are clearing it at the port, you pay so much on it already. They introduced luxurious vehicle tax.
Okay.
Now the point is that we are not saying that there should not be any tax at all. When we're in power, we introduced taxes like ESLA, which today they describe it as a nuisance tax, but today it is their savior. A tax that we wanted to last or just for 2 good years. They came, extended it, and they have even increased ESLA. The point is that we are not saying that taxation is not part of the economy. It is. But you don't introduce taxes to impose hardship on the people. We want the government to get creative.
But if you're saying that government should get creative, yes. The finance minister has said it categorically that the 1.75% e-levy is the prudent way
of
generating revenue for the state
when other
through
countries,
taxation.
Many other countries introduced similar taxes and they have to stop it.
Okay.
Tanzania is a good example. Today they are celebrating their 60th Independence Day. The point is that this e-levy is not the way to go. The e-levy seeks to impose hardship on the good people of Ghana. We have said that one, the best way to raise, you want to raise 7 billion. They claim that the 7 billion is what they need to do all the things that they are saying, even though that is ridiculous. There are reports to show.
Can you step down for me?
Yes, there are reports to show that Ghana loses about 12 billion annually to corruption under your government from 2017 to every year. 12 billion is going into corruption under your government. So if you want 7 billion, cut down on the corruption. Secondly, you are asking us to tighten our belts and pay extra when your president is flying luxurious, most expensive private jets. Such a president, such a leader who tells us that things are tight, he needs our money. So you want to take fees from the little money that I'm sending to my grandmother.
You certainly don't
and
expect,
you use that,
Adam,
you waste that
Adam,
on those private jets.
You certainly don't expect the president to sit in an economy class when, going for international
what is even wrong with it? We have seen other presidents, prime ministers of
Did John Mahama do that when he was in office?
President Mahama was flying with the presidential jet.
Okay.
At the time where the presidential jet was not available, President Mahama flew with a commercial flight. He did not rent a private jet, paying $14,000 in some instances an hour, and they to be waiting for him only for him to go and sleep at conferences. That is not the kind of leadership the people of Ghana voted for.
Right.
So my point is that you don't waste our money on luxurious flights because they told us that the president wants to go and bath in the sky, and expect that the little money that I want to share with my family, with my colleague students and all of that, you want to be taxing it, and you tell us that is innovation.
Right.
There are many ways of raising funds without imposing hardship on the good people of Ghana, and they know it.
Viewers, you're still watching Hot News right here on Pan-African Television with me, Justice Appiah. If you're watching us on Facebook, please share the Facebook Live for other people to also watch tonight's edition of the program. Let me move to Mr. George AC right away. Mr. George, I'm pretty sure you would want to respond to Adam on some of the issues they have raised.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening to you. Good evening to our viewers. And let me say welcome to Adam. It's interesting and ironical.
Right.
I see. A party that introduced VAT, a party that prides itself of introducing ESLA. VAT is a tax. ESLA is a tax. A party that taxed the Ghanaian apetite consumer. A party that placed tax on condoms, chaliwati, cutlasses. A social democratic party that should be caring about the people today is pontificating. A party that was against the communication service tax introduced by President Kufuor, and when they got power, they rather increased that tax instead of scrapping it. It's now pontificating and ruling against taxation. It's interesting and ironic.
You fought VAT, true or false?
Yes, the rate was what we
fought. And then President Akufo-Addo is known for his radical demonstration on VAT.
It at 17%. And we said no, it's a new tax. So start it at 10. Ultimately, he did that.
You were shouting on the rooftops when they taxed condoms, chaloti, and all those things you mentioned, right?
Yes. Yes.
So they have the right to complain about the 1.75%, e-levy.
If you pontificate that way, then it's like you should be pointing to us that you care so much about the people.
Okay.
You didn't show that when you had power. Okay? That is my point. And then again, I'm beginning to believe that those people that unfortunately died during the election was actually the handiwork of the NDC. A deliberate work, for them to go and cause trouble at those things to maybe elicit a harsh response from the security or something. I'm beginning to wonder because it's become a chewing stick every day, every time for them.
Right.
Okay, people are dead. Solemn issues is now what they go about throwing all over. It's sad and pathetic.
They think that the government or president should have, show some sort of sympathy to families who have lost their loved ones.
What happened to the Kumi
their loved ones? Sorry.
The CDRs killed. Did the then president show this thing for demonstrators who were killed? This guy, one demonstration. This guy who was shot in the eye and ultimately died. Okay, in this country, what did we do to them?
Right.
And this one, electoral offenses and others, rowdy situations and co on election day. Please.
Right. Let's move to the budget.
Yes. So these are issues that we should begin to look at. Now let's come to the budget and see. The NDC not against tax, General Mosquito. That's comforting to hear that. But if you go beyond that and look at the action that they are carrying out in the Parliament House, I don't seem to understand. Look, I have said something. We have gone through a devastating situation. I call it the ravages of war. So after that, we need to build our economy back. And it calls on all of us to contribute our quota to rebuild the economy.
Right.
That is exactly what the finance minister, and for that matter, the government is calling on Ghanaians to do. And that is the way we can, because I disagree with them saying this government has borrowed more than every government. And it's not 220, it's not correct. 220 is not correct. But by the end of December, you were saying in 4 years. So by the end of the December, the debt was 304 billion, which translates to 182. Okay? And that is 149% of the debt inherited, as against President John Mahama's 243% of the debt inherited, and Professor Mills 260. I was sitting here when
how much debt did you inherit?
122.
122.
Yes,
and what's the current total debt?
No, let's put the analysis in context. He was saying 4 years, and yet quoting as of September 2021.
So what's the current total debt?
September 2021 figures as against, and yet saying 4 years.
How much have you borrowed in 5 years?
You got it. Let me do my analysis.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Let me do my analysis. So at the end of December, with 2020, which was the 4 years, it was 304 billion. Okay.
304 billion.
Yes.
Okay.
As of September 2021, it's 341 billion.
Okay. 341 billion.
Yes,
as of September 2021.
Yes, the December one translates to 149% of debt inherited.
Okay.
As against the 4 years of Professor Mills, 269.
So if you inherit 122 and you've borrowed, you've taken it to 341 as of September.
Yes, this year.
Tell us, what's the difference?
I don't understand.
Strike the difference and tell us how much you have borrowed.
No, if you do your analysis and you say 4 years and you are quoting 5 years, It doesn't sit well.
I see. Okay.
Statistically and mathematically, it's wrong.
But
so let's do the proper thing.
But is it not a fact?
How much have you borrowed?
Is it not a fact?
It doesn't matter. It's there.
Is it not a fact that you still borrowed more than previous government?
That's why I'm giving you the figures. No. Okay. If you're doing analysis, you do it as in the rate form, which tells you if Professor Mills' figure is 269. Listen to me. No, but percentage of the borrowing as the rate as a percentage of debt inherited. Okay, then you look at the size of your economy. That's what you're doing. Okay, and we look at
as of September. I'll give you the time. As of September 2021.
Yes,
he said the public debt rose to 341 billion.
Good.
So let's deduct 122 from 341.
Yes.
It gives you
220.
219.
So 220.
Now, so 220.
Yes.
So it means that you borrowed 220 billion. True or false?
In almost 5 years.
In almost 5 years. Haven't you borrowed more than previous governments have borrowed?
No.
If you look at the figure.
You see, if you talk nominal, look. Let me tell you something. Why I'm telling you that.
Okay.
As of 2000, when we took over, the size of the Ghanaian economy was around $4.4 billion. Our debt was about $7.2 billion. So we said debt to GDP was in excess of 152%. Okay? So the debt was 1.5 times the size of our economy.
I see.
It was a precarious situation. That's why we went to HIPPI. Okay? Then from that time to President Kufuor leaving, the debt was 9.45 billion.
Okay.
Which was then around 33% of GDP. Okay? That was the situation. Then from 9.5 billion, they took over and took it to 35.6 billion by 2013. That is 269% of the debt inherited.
Why would you want to calculate it percentage-wise, but you wouldn't want us to look at the nominal figures?
I don't have a problem with your nominal figures. I don't have a problem with the nominal figures. But I'm telling you, if you want to determine performance, it's rates that you look at. Okay, so that nominal figure. What can I come in?
No, I'll allow you, Adam. He was very. No, let's be fair. Adam, let's be fair. He was quiet. He was quiet when you were making your submission. You can't come in. So no, go ahead, Mr. AC.
So if you don't understand the analysis, take your pen and do it. Okay. So
Adam, you have the opportunity.
35.6 billion, and you hit 122 billion from 35.6. That's 2013. To 122 billion. What are we talking about? And what's the size of the economy? Okay? So if you're doing analysis, you do it in that closet. Then another way of measuring, which is the economic one that everybody knows, is debt to GDP. Okay? Which is 77% today. Okay? Debt to GDP is 7%. And we know the situation. The COVID situation and all that. Okay, and I heard Sami Jenfi saying what 100 million, blah blah blah. So the freebies and co, nobody was paying for them. The state was paying for them, and we incurred the cost. Now let's go on. Let's go on.
At the time, ex-president Kufuor was leaving office.
Yes.
What was the debt?
9.5 billion.
And they took it. Let's take it from President Mills' time to John Mahama's time. They took it. No, I want us to do a simple mathematics. They took it from 9 billion to 125 billion. 9.5 billion to 122 billion, right?
Yes.
Because you took it at 122 billion.
Yes.
Okay. So 122 minus 9.5, right? Minus 9.5, it gives you 112.5 billion. So it means that they borrowed 112.5 billion in addition to what President Kufuor left. And you took it from 122 to 341 as of September. We strike, the difference. Of course, you've borrowed 20 billion. And you would want Ghanaians to believe that somebody who had borrowed 112.5 billion had borrowed more than somebody within a space of 5 years has borrowed 220 billion. I want to understand that point properly. And how is that possible?
In rate terms, in percentage terms. So what it means is that, look, and I will tell you the build-up of the debt. It's not all of them that is money that was borrowed. Okay? There are certain factors that go in there. For instance, exchange rate depreciation. You want to factor it in.
Right.
Then there are the loans that you are the time that you are taking the loan. Maybe it was agreed on maybe 5-7 years ago, and the loan is arriving as of now. So there are certain computations that economists make, and all those things go into the build-up. Okay, and then you need to look at all those things. Now let's go, and that's why I'm doing my analysis with the rates.
Right.
And the rates determine performance. Okay, so if you take it from point A to point B, at what rate?
But why?
I look at exchange
I get
rate
it. You see, I want to.
And then I look at debt accumulation. That is what we are looking at.
So I think I understood your.
Under this government is better than it was under them.
Fantastic.
Yes.
I asked that
pricing.
I asked that question because I feel that anytime this issue, comes up, we try to run away from the nominal figures.
Exactly. Nominal figures.
Exactly. So if you look at
the problem with him was that he should have said as of September 2021.
Very well.
They said 4 years, which is what disingenuous.
But if you look at it that way, would you agree that you've borrowed more?
No, in nominal terms, yes.
Yes.
But then in relation to debt there and then the GDP side.
You can go ahead. That's where I want to straighten.
So nominal terms, but you see, as of the size of the economy today, you look at it and then you do your assessment and analysis. So one may be 10 cedis, but bigger than the 100 cedis that is there because of the times you're in and the size of the economy.
Right.
Okay, so let's move on. Now, let's come to the issue that they raised there.
Okay.
Yes, it's good for them to have their seminar, but the truth is that Ghanaians, these are not people who are being honest with you. They are just trying to be opportunistic and take advantage of the Ghanaian who may, want to forget, because the former president says we forget easily.
I see.
You get it? So that is what they want to look and take advantage of. But this budget, we have done a lot of things. My brother said there's nothing in. Maybe he was away, so he
what do you have in there? So the good things in there. Can you tell Ghanaians?
You told him about the U-Start.
U-Start, okay.
U-Start is a good thing. Then we are looking at this benchmark thing. Look, let me explain the concept of the benchmark. And we have done some readjustment based on, the listening approach that we have used. Now, viewers and listeners, anytime this benchmark is applied to all these imported products and co, what you're doing is creating jobs for people in Italy, people in Cosmocaya, people in the United States. Okay? That is what you're doing.
I see.
And so this government is saying that products that have competitive edge in our country, like this poultry, like this oil palm business, which oil palm is used for soap manufacturing and others, okay? Those ones and this rice production and all that, if they have competitive edge in our country, we will prefer to protect the local manufacturer so that our youth will get jobs there. Hence, the removal of benchmark values on those products, okay? So that the Ghanaian can be competitive. Otherwise, if you bring the imported and they still get the 30-50% benchmark values, what it means is that you are making our local production not competitive because the imported ones will be lower, the cost will be lower or lesser than the ones produced at home. And so we need to protect the indigenous production or manufacturer because we're embarking on one district, one factory. We need to encourage them to do that. And that is why we're working on this benchmark thing. Out of 81 itemized products and co, I think 41 we've seen the competitive edge and co, and the rest we are keeping the benchmark for them. So this as a result of the negotiation and bending back a little for the consumer.
Right.
Now, viewers, this we have spoken about this e-tax, e-levy. It is very innovative and forward-looking.
What makes it innovative?
I told you
and
here the last
forward-looking?
time. I told you here the last time
yeah.
that the volume of transactions on the digital platform is such that if you're a government and you want to rebuild and expand the tax brackets, you cannot shy away from that.
Have you considered the status of the persons who are mostly, especially mobile money?
As we speak, we have 17 million Ghanaians on mobile money.
Okay.
Okay?
Right.
Okay? As of last year, last time I quoted a figure, the figure is actually about over 500 billion Ghana cedis transactions on the digital platform.
I see.
The world, I quoted paragraph 309 of the budget, 2022 budget, which said in 2016, the digital platform transactions alone, volume of transactions in the world was about $11.5 trillion. And by 2025, it's going to hit 23 trillion. And so we say, let's go on to be traditional and looking at those few people who are paying tax and burdening them. And this government being sensitive, the vice president then had said that a lot of the poor use the momo. And so, if you tax it, it's going to be problematic. But we sat down and...
I was about to ask you, that the vice president, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has a divergent... view from what you have implemented, because to him, mobile money is not going to be taxed. Mobile money is part of the e-levy.
No, listen. Yes, mobile money is the key one. Okay?
Right.
He said the poor. And now we did a research. And the research, we saw that about 30 to 40% of Ghanaians who send Momo do it 100 or less. Okay? A day.
So your definition is that if somebody is able to send 100 Ghana cedis a day, the person is rich.
No, it's poor.
So if the person is poor, and
that's why we don't tax 100 cedis. Anything from 100 and less, we don't tax it.
But,
we will not pay any tax.
The definition according to the communications officer, if in Ghanaian,
communication officer?
Madam Eslausu. Sorry, the communications minister, Madam Eslausu.
Yes.
She said that anybody who is able to send 100 Ghana cedis a day is rich.
Yes. If you can remit 100 cedis, because the United Nations standard definition of the poor.
But how can that be accurate?
Anybody who earns less than $2 a day is poor. Okay? And if somebody is earning less than $2 a day and can remit $17 a day, then I don't know what you are talking about. That is why we have said 100 cedis and below, those people are exempted.
I see.
Okay? If you are selling eggs or you are selling ice water and you go you take the items, you don't pay for them, you go sell them, and at the end of the day, you sell about 110 cedis. Okay? And then you have to send the capital, which is about 100 cedis, to the owner. You send it through Momo, you don't pay a dime. That is the sensitive government we're talking about. Who thinks and cares, and a government that has rolled out social protection programs for the people. Free SHS is there. Okay? A lot of them. Okay?
I see.
So these are matters that we say we are rebuilding our economy. So let's look at the volumes of transactions.
Adam, I'll come to you briefly. But
volumes of transactions. And we have
the New Patriotic Party in opposition.
Yes.
Trumpeted changing the economy from taxation to production.
Yes.
If you look at the DVLA, you've increased, the levy or the tax over there by 15%. We have the e-levy and some other, taxes that have been, increased by this government in the 2022 budget. What happened to your dream of changing the economy from taxation to production? The last government any Ghanaian would have expected to be taxing the good people of Ghana is a New Patriotic Party government.
We are not in normal times. We have been hit by COVID the world over. As I speak with you, in the United States, people are angry about the price of groceries and then gas and all that. Okay? And calling Biden to do something about them. You get it? So we are not in normal times. This is a government that removed or reduced 17 taxes in the first year.
Haven't you borrowed enough because of COVID? Haven't you received enough from donors because of COVID?
No, we have also supported the people enough with the resources that were available.
Right.
Okay, that we got. And so, and look, we are building the structures back so that this economy can grow positively. Last one.
Very well. Last one indeed. So, but make it snappy.
He says there's nothing good, and you mentioned the use that.
Yes.
Okay, we are looking at that, and then development projects, road construction. The NAPCO charged the person who was a member of the Unemployed Graduates Association of Ghana before 2016. Okay, and thereafter got NAPCO for 3 years, and now is getting extension, and maybe is going to be absorbed into a digital program that is going to be rolled out soon. Okay, and these have all been captured in the budget.
Right.
Okay, such a person, if you tell him there's nothing good in the budget,
all right,
he'll be laughing at you.
Okay.
Okay. The young message who were backlog at home, completed, Alawa and all that, and you cancelled it.
All right.
And you are telling me,
right, I'll come back to you.
Can do better.
I'll come back to you.
Yes.
I'll come back to you.
Ghanaians, there's hope in the 2022.
There's hope in the 2022
Let's support it.
Right.
We are engaging them. But I'm sure appropriation and everything will go through.
Let's see how it goes. So please give me 10 minutes. 10, so that I'll wrap up properly.
Yes.
Adam, thank you so much, my director. Adam, you have...
And it's not true they discovered any two oils.
Adam, you have 5 minutes. Adam, please, you have 5 minutes to respond to Mr. Isi. You can go ahead.
Exploration started under you, but they were not discovered by before.
That's not true.
There's the truth. Go and ask DMP. I've had these things with DMPC. It's not true that they discovered it.
Mr. Isi, please allow him.
I made reference.
Mr. Isi,
yes.
You expressed concern when he was interjecting,
exactly.
and I did the needful, and I did the but you have the time to respond.
I'm putting it on the table. That's all.
So you can go ahead.
I didn't know you say.
Adam, go ahead.
It's important. Sometimes when you listen to people like George,
right,
and MPP communicators, without disrespect, sometimes they sound so ridiculous.
Okay.
That you think that they are engaging in comics with the people of Ghana, because it was actually so funny listening to George. Okay. Funny because one, George wants to make reference to debt to GDP ratio, when at the time the NDC was leaving office, debt to GDP ratio was 56%.
Okay.
And Akufo-Addo mounted campaign platforms and told us that any government or any country where debt to GDP ratio was more than 50%, that economy is in a mess and must be voted out.
Right.
You have raised it to 77%, and you are boasting about 77% debt to GDP ratio. Is it that you don't know the records?
No, serious.
Today, you are telling us that
it
was 56, yes. Because under John Dramani Mahama, the highest we got to was 56% of GDP.
Right.
Today, you have brought it to 77%.
You had any crisis? You had any crisis?
When you said no, you see,
please allow.
I'll come to that. So it is so common that you rather refer to debt to GDP when the record shows that we have a better record. Secondly, George Isi and the MPP, including Akufo-Addo himself, have been on this very funny tangent that issues about debt to GDP, issues about taxes, is because of COVID. At the time you introduced the luxury vehicle tax, did we have COVID? At the time the debt to GDP ratio rose to 73% in 2019, did we have COVID-19? The economy was collapsing way before COVID-19. Indeed, if there is anything that has saved this government, it is the COVID-19. You know why? When they had COVID, they quickly put their hand into the heritage fund of John Mahama, the legacy of John Mahama.
Right.
They quickly put their hands into getting money. They got a 1 billion grant from the IMF, and many other grants and gifts grants were given to this country. And so they use those things to engage in all sorts of freebies, and it became an avenue for corruption. As we speak, there is a company at Frontiers at the airport called Frontiers Healthline Services, a company that was incorporated and nights before they were given a sole sourcing contract. They charge everybody coming into this country $150 for COVID tests. These people see COVID.
How much did you pay as an avenue? How much did you pay?
They see COVID as an avenue to loot the people of this country.
Right.
Again, he is saying about oil fields. I'm shocked. I'm shocked that an MPP communicator, director for NADMO, does not know that it was John Mahama and the NDC that added the 10%.
It's not true. I'm telling you, it's not true.
When did it start?
It's not true.
It was John Mahama and
it was discovered. Exploration started under you. Even the main exploration started by what?
When he interjects, I'll be fine. You can go ahead.
I am saying that.
Come on.
I'm telling you the truth. A fact as basic as Sankofa and 10 fields that even your finance minister acknowledged in the 2017 budget because it started coming into stream in 2017, an NDC legacy. You are telling me that it is not NDC government?
No.
I mean, let's respect the viewers.
Right.
Anybody can Google and ask or can check on Google who added 10 fields and the Sankofa fields. So it is funny, it is comic on your part to look into the face of your co-panelists and your host and then deceive the people of Ghana that it's not an NDC legacy.
Right.
Again, he's talking about issue of a government that they taxing and they are managing the youth start. And I'm saying that it is so easy for anyone, even a primary one child, can draw a budget and put nice initiatives like youth start, whatever in it. And I'm referring you that from 2017 budget to the 2022 budget, every single year, this government makes mention of a headline policy that they never implement. The only thing that they implement in their budget are the taxes. And I refer you that are you aware that at the beginning of the year, the first budget that was read by Oseche Mensah Bonsu, they stated that they were coming up with a policy to employ 1 million young people.
Right.
Till today, that project did not come, that program did not come to stream, they didn't do it, and then that is what they have redefined to call Youth Start. So it is not, you cannot be here and ask us to clap for Youth Start.
Right.
Like I'm saying, it is just words, empty words. It is not the same government.
Kindly step down.
That Akufo-Addo, when he was going to open the mosque at Nima, told us that by the beginning of October, all NAPCO recruits will be enrolled on a program, and that he was creating a job for 3 million Ghanaians from October. We are in December. December is ending. Not even a single person. So it is not just about announcing these programs. The truth is that your government has failed. You have mismanaged the economy. You are using COVID. When at the time, even COVID, the economy was already in shambles. I've given you facts. I've given you references. You cannot just sit here and deceive the people of Ghana.
Right.
The truth is one, and the truth is that there is corruption. Corruption is the biggest legacy of the Akufo-Addo government. This is a government that is wasting 12 billion. 12 billion every year on corruption, and yet they are looking for 7 billion.
Which record
and they are
says
crying.
that?
The Ghana Integrity Initiative, Transparency International,
your time is up.
All of them. I've mentioned them.
Your time is up.
12 billion every year.
Right. Thank you so much. Allow me do this before I come to you. Please allow me to do this. I'll come to you. I'll give you the time. Allow me. Gentlemen, please allow me. Let me do this briefly. Let me say happy birthday to a brother. Adam and but you have had your time. You have had your time. Allow me to do this briefly, then I come back. Allow me do this. I'll come back to you guys. No, I'll come back to you guys.
Of corruption. Akufo-Addo is a definition of corruption.
Adam.
No president in the history of Ghana is more corrupt than him.
Adam, allow me do this.
The family of Akufo-Addo.
Your microphones are off.
Your corruption, happy birthday to you. Can't even endure anything.
Right. Thank you. Happy birthday to. Mr. Allow me. Please. Gentlemen, be gentle. I mean, you have gentle. Right. I mean, your microphones are off. Happy birthday to a brother and a friend. Happy birthday to a brother and a friend, Felix Osafo Mafo. Today is your birthday. Felix is the Eastern Regional Deputy Secretary, hopeful of the New Patriotic Party. Happy birthday to you, my brother, Michael Foridia, brother. We'll meet at home, but bro, I fully support you to be the Eastern Regional Deputy Secretary, hopeful of the New Patriotic Party, Felix Osafo Mafo. Felix Osafo Mafo, happy birthday. Enjoy your day, my brother. You hear from me right after the show. Now, Mr. Isi, let me come to you. Take us home.
Oh, but I gave you 5
minutes. I gave you 5 minutes. You did about 7 minutes.
Funny to expect me time to also
no, you don't have any time.
No, I mean,
let me finish.
No, this is what I say. The people of Ghana know that.
Right. Does it take us on?
No, I mean, it's not referring to me not to.
Viewers, this government, these NAPCO people, 33,000 of them transition to permanent jobs.
Are you sure?
3,000.
That's Dr. Anyas. Yes, Dr. Anyas. David, it's now like the 67,000 institutions have absorbed this people. Plenty. There's a transition. You know that we monitor them. There's a transition this thing. So, you check the budget. It's there. 67,000 of them. What is this? What is this? What is this? Thank you. So, 33,000 have transitioned. Okay. Check the budget. 67,000 of them. We are going to have a digital program for them. About 50,000 of them will be absorbed. 2022 is in the budget. There. So don't worry. Now, viewers, the research or audit, whatever, says irregularities. It's in 2013 or 2015, I stand to be corrected. It's of the University of Ghana said Ghana was losing 9.6 billion cedis. Right. To irregularities. Which year? I believe in 2013 or 2015. One of the two. Irregularities. Okay? Under John Mahama. Under John Mahama. Where can we get a report? You say just one good. It's in Ghana. Now let me finish. No, it's 12 billion irregularities. In 2013, it was 9.6 billion.
Which is a
what you did next time, maybe if you bring the two of us here, nobody will speak. I'm giving you a promise. So maybe you don't bring the two of us here. Yes, because let me tell you something. I was on a program with him yesterday. He was insulting the minister. Today, insults all over. We got it. I intentionally decided not to respond to that. But if we want to insult, we can insult everybody. You got it.
People make reckless statements.
But I don't want to repeat it here. Today, we did the same thing again. We ignore that. Yes, thank you. It's an issue. That's all. What is the truth? What are you saying that is the truth? The facts are there. Our budget is there. Let's get it. You get it? So, it's there. Okay, let's get it. Right? Don't worry. You can get it. You say
allow him finish his allow him finish. No, but you. It is
I don't deceive.
I'm telling you on
I deal with facts. I deal.
Me, I read every ISA report. I have it. I have a copy.
Well, I think that we cannot continue this way because
Ghanaians are here. The ISA report was a graphic headline. It's a graphic. I believe either 2013 or 2015.
This is what time we allow on the program.
Yes. It's ISA report.
My name is Justice Appiah, and the show has been running. Goodbye.
Yes, I'm telling you. Maybe you don't invite the tour. If you do, you suck us on this platform.